We are not the outlandish ones, New York City.
They all laughed. The crowds laughed.
They want us to think we are crazy. We are sane.
She's doing stand-up comedy now. Didn't see that coming. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in New York. The crowd then went and burned a synagogue and looted a drugstore. Because, they're Democrats. You know how they are. Well, a very happy Thursday to you, and welcome back once again. We have a basket full of crazy Democrats. They're nuts and nuts. I didn't even see that one coming. I haven't even heard that, but that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez opening soundbite. We're not the crazy ones just because all of our transgender people are shooting up hockey rinks. And did you see I got an update on that the tranny mass shooter? They like to call people shooters. Got an update on that. Turns out that he's got a son. Well, he had a son. He's dead now because he shot himself in the head after a strong man intervened and beat him up and took his gun away. Then turned out tucked away. Like a lot of Democrats, he had a second gun that he whipped out the tranny to, how shall I say, blast his own brains out. I didn't want to say blow his own brains out because it might be interpreted incorrectly, but they're to blast his own brains out. And it turns out he's got a son, a grown son, who's currently in prison because he set fire to a black church. He's an arsonist, and he was convicted of setting fire to a black church, and so he's in prison for setting fire to the black. And it's a Democrat family. They got to do things together. They burn churches and shoot up high school hockey games and dress like ladies and get new tattoos on the big weightlifting lady arms. I got to tell you, they're just not. They're not normal. The Democrat Party, they're not normal at all. We got crazy things going on in England. They've got a member of the royal family formerly known as Prince. He's got a little red Corvette, formerly known as Prince Andrew, and he's in handcuffs. He was arrested. Apparently they sent 6 police vehicles to his fancy house on the eastern wing of the British Isle of England, it's Great Britain, it's the United Kingdom, and 8 law enforcement went and arrested Prince Andrew, but you can't call him Prince Andrew anymore because he's not a prince anymore because they stripped him of his title the way that he stripped teenagers of their beachwear because it turns out he's a super freak. He's super freaky, and now he's been arrested, and they're saying he may actually go to jail. He may go to prison for years. And the king put out a statement. His older brother is the king. His name is Chuck. He goes by Chuck, not like Chunk Todd, which is different, but he's Chuck. King Chuck. He used to be Prince Chuck. Now he's King Chuck. And his younger brother is in the Hoosgow, in the can, in the slammer, and he is looking at possibly years in prison because he didn't do the right thing. We should have this law. I was looking at it this morning, and I was thinking, we need this law in the United States. It's kind of crazy, and I'll explain to you what he's been accused of, what he's been arrested for. He's apparently guilty because, they're the British royal family, and they got a lot of cross-dressers over there, don't they, the British royal family? They've been cross-dressing for a long time. They're all about, buggery. I think buggery is the thing about them. The British royal family always had some weird things going for them. But great stuff. There was a funny moment at the White House press briefing yesterday with Caroline Leavitt, the wonderful White House press secretary, who's just great, and a CBS News boy, a boy with CBS News, named Ed O'Keefe. Ed O'Keefe. He was in the gallery yesterday in the James Brady briefing room. James Brady was Ronald Reagan's press secretary who was shot in the head by a Democrat because that's what Democrats do. John Hinckley, well-known Democrat. Democrats lie about that. They say, oh, no, he wasn't. His father was a Republican. So they say, oh, he was a Republican. No, he was a Democrat. But the James Brady briefing room. And Ed O'Keefe, he said, Oh yeah, Trump goes around saying that people have falsely accused him of being racist, and they said, give me an example of somebody falsely accusing him of being racist, and the room burst into laughter. First the press secretary, and then the rest of the room broke into laughter. I guess it's like AOC unintentionally doing stand-up comedy, and Ed O'Keefe. It was kind of funny because Ed O'Keefe was being serious. He was doing it with a kind of a straight face or a cross-dressing face. But he did it, and he said, yeah, give me an example of Trump falsely being accused of being a racist. And after everybody was done laughing, the White House press office put together a long list of Democrats calling Trump racist. And it was kind of funny because one of them, they're the party of lynching black people from trees, just by the way. To be clear who we're talking about here. But it turns out that the White House press office went and looked at Ed O'Keefe, CBS News White House correspondent, Ed O'Keefe. They looked at his social media and found him calling Trump a racist over something that he had tweeted. And then they went and killed 40% of the black population in the womb and gave out Lucite Block Awards for it because they got that going. But it was a fun moment. I have the audio for you at the White House press briefing yesterday. And President Trump showered with praise at Black History Month event. He keeps it real, just like Grandma. That's in the headline. That's in quotation marks from left-wing radicals at Mediaite. But Black History Month's event, remember Black History Month, shortest month of the year, ends in April Fool's Day. See, that's one of my favorite Marion Barry lines. That and the GDB set me up. That was another good mayor. He was mayor for life in Washington, D.C., and great stuff. He had a lot of good lines, all of them unintentional, but he was an interesting mayor. I voted for him every chance I got. I have a great picture of me and Marion Barry. We were going to put it out yesterday and say, here is me with Jesse Jackson, but it's me with Marion Barry. And it'd be funny because the left would become angry about it. And then we just play audio of them introducing Jesse Jackson as the Reverend Al Charlatan and mistaking Jesse Jackson for all kinds of other people because they're black. And you know how Democrats are. When they're not lynching, they're pinching. You know what I'm talking about? It's a lot of gropers, a lot of gropey stuff going on there, including Prince Andrew, who you can't call Prince Andrew anymore. He's the formerly known as Prince Andrew. And he's going to start writing songs now because he could be, with all this going on, he could become a rapper now, don't you think? Because he's been arrested. He's accused of sexual abuse of minors, serial chronic sexual abuse of minors thanks to the Jeffrey Epstein operation. Because let's face it, your mom warned you about this. When you start hanging out with the Democrat kids, bad things are going to happen. You know, nothing good ever happens after smoking a crack pipe with a Democrat at the beach house. The Democrats are like that. But we got all kinds of great stuff. And there was, at Black History Month event at the White House, a grandmother, just great, a great woman at the White House event and talking about Donald Trump. And it's a lot of fun. Get off the man's back, said Grandma at the Black History Month event. It was a lot of fun. And, and this is going on. A Daily Mail headline from yesterday saying Trump rushed into Iran crisis meeting as insider warns, quote, strike within hours, end quote. And that's the headline of the Daily Mail. I've got to say, I'm not really thrilled with the idea of taking another military action in Iran against Iran. But we have what did the president call an armada? An armada. We do have an armada. We've got a lot of warships in the area and air capability and cruise missile capability and fighter jets and bombers that can come in from a distance. And I don't relish the idea of this going after Iran. If you're going to go after the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, the ones that are killing all of the innocent Iranians, that might be interesting. But do you go after the Ayatollah? Do you go for a decapitation in Iran, a theocracy where an Ayatollah is the lead dog? It gets complicated quite quickly because There are a lot of fanatics there. I don't know if you're aware of this, but they a few years ago they said, "Hey, who wants to volunteer to become a suicide bomber?" And what did they get? 85,000 volunteers in Iran. That's women size them up and say, "Well, there's a man with courage, just the kind of man I've been looking for. He wants to be a suicide bomber. That's quite brave, and he has a nice beard. Look at that. That's good. It's things. Dating is different in Tehran. It can get weird in Washington, that's for sure. But in Tehran, different bag nails altogether. Crazy stuff. Yes, sir. And here is Maryland, the Senator Chris Van Hollen. Didn't he go to El Salvador to hang out with Kilmore Abrego Garcia and split margaritas with elbow straws and stuff like that, and cooing and singing to each other in jail because Democrats love MS-13 gang members and Tren de Aragua gang members. Democrats love they're not brave enough to be gang members in El Salvador themselves. Excuse me, El Salvador. With liberal, you got to every Spanishy word you've got to pronounce it with an accent. But they got that. But Chris Van Hollen, who loves illegal alien gang members who beat their wives and their baby mamas, and he loves them, he supports them, he backs them. But Maryland's Chris Van Hollen, senator, leads Democrats planning State of the Union boycott. You know what? That's actually good, because you demented, child-abusing miscreants really shouldn't be in that sacred chamber anyway when the State of the Union address is being delivered. And remember Nancy Pelosi tearing up the State of the Union? They are third world tree dwellers, except she's really good at investing money on Wall Street. And when I say really good, I mean better than Goldman Sachs. Her record is better than, it's quite amazing. So, yeah, the Democrats planning on, the State of the Union is next week. The president will deliver it, and security will be very tight because Democrats are violent and criminally insane. They're dangerous. Speaking of which, you see the Democrats show up on Capitol Hill. It was actually day before yesterday with a 12-gauge shotgun. And he had, it was a brand spanking new, beautiful 12-gauge pump-action shotgun with new accoutrement. And he had new camouflage, brand new camouflage. And he was driving, I know he was a Democrat because he was driving a new-ish white Mercedes-Benz SUV. A nice, new, shiny, white Mercedes-Benz SUV. Showed up with a brand new 12-gauge pump-action shotgun. And when he showed up on Capitol Hill, and what's his name? His name is Macho Camacho. His name is Camacho. And he came up from Georgia, drove up from Georgia, new shotgun, Mercedes SUV, showed up at the Capitol, got out, storming toward the Capitol with his 12-gauge shotgun. And there are police there, as you might imagine. And they said, "Stop." And he stopped. And they said, "Put the shotgun down." And he put the shotgun down. And they said, "Get on the ground and spread your hands out." And so he got on the ground and he spread his hands out. And you know what happened? They didn't shoot Macho Camacho and kill him. You know why? Because he obeyed police orders. Unlike Renee Good, who got shot in the face and killed while she was crashing her car into a federal law enforcement agent who had a gun, so naturally he shot her in the face. And then, of course, they've got their other great friend, Alex Pretty. Alex Pretty, "I feel pretty, oh so pretty." It's not feeling as pretty as it used to be. And he also disobeyed a series of orders and committed assault and brought a gun to a gunfight, and he lost. And the Democrats make him a hero like he's Luigi Mangione, who assassinated a CEO on a sidewalk in New York, and the Democrats love it. And who I was watching one of the I spent a couple of minutes yesterday on the libs of TikTok. I just thought, what am I doing here? Libs of TikTok. And boy, there are a lot of mentally ill Democrats out there, and a lot of them are women. And I have a woman for you. I want to share a Democrat woman that posted a video of herself, and she is homicidally insane. She's criminally insane. And perfectly normal, a perfectly normal liberal Democrat woman in 2026. I've got that coming up. But a whole bunch of them, they can't stop talking about violence and all the people they want killed. And it, of course, begins with Donald Trump. The Democrat Party is there. I got to tell you, they should have a giant rally on the Mall in Washington, D.C., where they all drink the Kool-Aid. like their old pal Jim Jones in Jonestown in Guyana. Also, we had another self-immolation. And in fact, it happened. I can't believe it wasn't even in the news. The Democrats have made self-immolation so normal now that they're not even in the news because they know it always reflects negatively on the Democrat Party. This is interesting, though, because there's a Republican member of the House of Representatives involved and another self-immolation because, And the New York Times, Democrats plan to counter Trump's speech to Congress with rally. That might be where they all drink the Kool-Aid, where they have a giant Jonestown. They should have Jonestown on the mall. Should they self-immolate or just drink poison Kool-Aid like the old days? We're at 888-630-9625. All right, we got Whoopi Goldberg, too. Turns out Whoopi Goldberg is a Jeffrey Epstein girl or man or whatever she is. Her real name is Karen Johnson, by the way, which is really one of my favorite things about her. It's my only favorite thing about her is that her real name is Karen Johnson, which is very appropriate. And I love that one soundbite with the ladies' rooms with the coat hangers and stuff. That's a great soundbite. All right, let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Matt calling from St. Louis, Missouri. Matthew, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Matt.
Happy Thursday in Pooptomic Rivertopia.
Yeah, we got the river of poop going here. It's about time, too. The way Washington, D.C., we earned this a long time ago.
Indeed. Hey, so two quick things, peripherally related maybe. One is a suggestion for the Chris Plante store, a T-shirt, and at the top it would have a voice bubble saying, "Pat, I'd like to buy a vowel." And then below that, the main part of the shirt in the center would say TDS is tedious, and the T's, D's, and S's would be great big orange letters because Orange Man bad, and then the vowels would be small black letters because of the small black hearts of TDS sufferers. So that's a T-shirt idea. And then you've got a saying that you say, and it's the Democrat Party, they're not happy unless they're not happy.
Right.
I've kind of got a variant on that that's from a first-person perspective instead of a third, so they could make it a bumper sticker for themselves. And that is the Democrat Party, we're not happy till you're not happy.
Yeah, that's the truth. That is a fact, Jack. That is the Democrat. It's funny, we were having this discussion at Newsmax yesterday. Really, the only thing that would make them happy is if they came to the conclusion that everyone else was unhappy, too. Democrats, as we know, are violent, and they one of the left-wing radical stories today, Mediaite, with Democrat Maryland Governor Wes Moore, who's having that poop-isode. He's flooding the Potomac River, the mighty Potomac River, with billions of tons of human waste because they're Democrats, and it's what they do to the whole country all day, every day. Wes Moore hits back at Trump's request for him to ask politely for help over Potomac spill. They have euphemisms for it. They call it Potomac spill. It's like the New York Times had a euphemism for the transgender murderer at the high school hockey game the other day. They said he goes by two names. That means that he's a tranny, but it was New York Times code. And Wes Moore, the Democrat, left-wing, radical, tax-raising, poop in the river governor of Maryland, he was very belligerent with President Trump and blamed President Trump for the big stain that they are. And President Trump said, listen, I want to help. It's Potomac River, and I'm the president, and it's America, and I'd like to help, but Wes Moore has been so rude and vile and accusatory and full of, what the river is full of, that President Trump said, well, you should ask politely, because he's been extremely impolite, and then he's going to come pounding on the door and demanding attention and billions of dollars from and President Trump said, hey, maybe you should build a bridge. Remember the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore went down when a foreign ship crashed into it and collapsed the Key Bridge and killed a number of people. That was China, wasn't it? Wasn't that China, the ship? But never mind that. And Wes Moore hasn't done a thing. We have our own Francis Scott Key Bridge in Washington, D.C. as well. That one has not been collapsed by anybody on the left yet, but we got that. And President Trump said maybe you should be building a bridge, just a thought, because, we got that. But Wes Moore hits back at Trump request to ask him politely for help on Potomac spill. Maryland Governor Wes Moore hit back at President Donald Trump for claiming that he would fix, they put the word fix in quotation marks, the sewage spill in the Potomac River only if Moore and other Democratic governors called the president and asked him politely. Well, they think that they should firebomb something and shoot at people because that's the Democrat Party, the old party of the Klan and the Confederacy. Moore spoke to CNN's Casey Hunt. Casey Hunt. She's got a nickname in the business. On Wednesday's edition of The Arena about the ongoing crisis, now it's a crisis, which began in January when a section of the river's interceptor transporting wastewater collapsed in Moore's state of Maryland. And then he said, it's not on my plate. So Trump and Moore had already traded accusations of blame over the spill when on Tuesday the president claimed that the federal government could resolve the crisis on one condition. Quoting now, Maryland, Virginia, and Washington, D.C., who are responsible for the massive sewage spill, really Maryland primarily, in the Potomac River and D.C., must get to work immediately, President Trump wrote on Truth Social. He said if they can't do the job, they'll have to call me and ask politely to get it fixed. And that's what has the media upset, that he said they have to call and ask politely because they're vulgar, rude Confederate states of America. They want us to burn Atlanta again before this is all over because you know how they are. They are not Rhett Butler. They are the Confederates, but Rhett, he was too smart to get involved in all that. And they're more Ashley Wilkes, I think. Everybody knows the Gone with the Wind references, right? Yeah, but they are there. So, on the arena about the crisis. And oh, no, Trump said we have to ask politely. We can't do that because we're rude and vulgar and we're not polite to anyone. So we've got that going. And President Trump is offering, but the Democrats, they just want to ruin stuff. And, boy, they're doing it with style this time, aren't they?
We're talking about a D.C. pipe on federal land, right? The area that we're talking about, that has been under federal control for the past century. And so any indication or any insinuation that somehow this is a Maryland issue or a Virginia issue is ridiculous. This is a D.C. pipe on federal land.
Oh, yeah, Wes Moore. He's that's called passing the buck. That is, the buck, where does it stop? Doesn't stop here, nowhere near me. No, it's a century old, and it's honestly, it's Trump's fault because it's not sure it's in Maryland, and sure it's been in Maryland since it was built in Maryland and all of that stuff. But the Potomac Interceptor sewage pipe in Glen Echo, Maryland. Yeah, you guys fix it. And he's asking arrogantly and smugly, and I think he's a racist.
Now the White House wants to get involved, even though we were doing their job for the past month. So if the president wants
to ask
good job. Nicely, here's my nice ask to the president. Mr. President, please do your job.
Yes, passing the buck like a pro. Man, this guy takes no responsibility for nothing. He reminds me of the clowns in Flint, Michigan, that were all Democrats, Democrat mayor, all Democrat city council, Democrat water commissioner. They destroyed the water supply in Flint, Michigan. And then they kept looking. There's a house, the state House of Representatives. They're all Democrats for Flint, Michigan. The Senate to Washington, D.C., and the House of Representatives, Democrats. And then they found, well, wait a minute, the governor's a Republican. Let's blame him because they have the brains of children. But a filthy, corrupt news media then carries the big lie because you know how they are. So we got that going. It's Democrats lie because they can, because they're like children and they get away with all that. Speaking of Democrats, here's a fun story from the Gateway. It was, interesting story from the Gateway, but it involves Democrats shooting and trying to kill families because that's who the Democrats are. Here's the headline. Republican county commissioner candidate's home in Charlotte. Now, he is a Republican, and he's running for county commissioner in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so he announced, hey, I'm a Republican. I'm running for county commissioner. And it turns out the Republican county commissioner candidate's home in Charlotte, North Carolina, targeted in horrific drive-by shooting, 7 to 10 shots fired, while wife and children were inside. And isn't that always the way, And that's probably best because there are Democrats outside, and they're always, trying to murder people because of their many mental illnesses. But isn't it amazing? A Republican county commissioner candidate's home in Charlotte, North Carolina, was struck by multiple rounds of gunfire on Monday night. According to early reports, 7 to 10 shots were fired toward the Huntersville residence of Mecklenburg County Commissioner candidate Aaron Marin. His name is Aaron Marin, M-A-R-I-N. And Aaron Marin, he could be a rapper also. Everybody could be a rapper, don't you think? While he was inside with his wife and their 2 young sons, WSOC-TV reported. Marin's young children had been playing outside in the driveway just a short time before the gunfire erupted. Bullets ripped through the property, striking the family's vehicles, a tree, a mailbox, even the kids' basketball court. And it looked to me like they were 12-gauge shotgun slugs, 12-gauge slugs, which are about the biggest old round that you can blast through things. I just saw some pictures of the stuff. But here's the thing. He's a Republican. He's running for county commissioner. And 7 to 10 shots fired. And he did a quick interview with the local TV people where the Republican whose house had just been shot up offered them a moment of his time.
This is happening in our community, in Huntersville, in what appears to be a safe neighborhood. Today, I don't feel safe to stand right here in front of you on this street. Our kids don't feel safe to be here. We don't feel safe to play in our driveway anymore. It is disturbing what we have experienced.
And the fact that he has an accent makes it a racist attack by the Democrats, who are the party of racists because they always have been. That's their thing. It's the thing about them. That's what they are. But there it is. And he is a Republican. He's running for elected office. And when he announced, Democrats came by and shot up his house with his wife and his kids inside. Isn't it nice? We always say Democrats don't care that their wives and kids inside because they, when they say women and children first, that means sexually abuse them and murder them first. That's your Democrat Party. Doesn't mean get them into the lifeboats and save them while the ship sinks. That's women and the building's on fire. Let's get the women and children out of here. The Democrats trample over the women and the children and leave them in their dust. Isn't that amazing? Just ridiculous political party, the Democrat Party. There is a crazy Republican story, although this may be a story of if you're a Republican in elected office, you should not hire Democrats. Probably shouldn't hire Democrats. Here's the story in the New York Post. Representative, I've been following self-immolations in America for quite a while now. It really began in earnest with the Democrat that drove to Washington, D.C. from Colorado, I believe. And he self-immolated at the Supreme Court on Earth Day because he was protesting people putting smoke in the air. So naturally, he drenched himself in gasoline and set himself on fire. So he ended up, his last gesture was he made himself into smoke in the air. No sense of irony, these people. And there have been a lot of self-immolations since then. One self-immolated at the Donald Trump trial in New York when he was on trial for having a non-disclosure agreement with a woman, as all the networks have with 100 women. But never mind that. And one self-immolated at the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada, blew himself up in in a Tesla truck, in a Tesla Cybertruck. And that's good. And that's a lot of them have one self-immolated at the Israeli embassy because he really liked the Hamas. He likes the PLO. And now he's dead. And another self-immolated at the Israeli consulate in Atlanta. Didn't even know they had a consulate until a Democrat self-immolated there. So here is today's story. Representative Tony Gonzalez, who is a Republican from Texas. Representative Tony Gonzalez' aide, who fatally set herself on fire, admitted to having an affair with lawmaker. I think that means a sexual affair. That's a pretty normal thing in Washington, I think. An aide to Representative Tony Gonzalez admitted that she had an affair, or claimed that she had an affair with Texas Republican in a text message to a colleague months before she fatally set herself on fire. See, it might be totally unrelated because it was months before. Regina Santos Aviles appeared to acknowledge the tryst. Now, it was a tryst. Early on the morning of April 28th, 2025, saying, "I had an affair with our boss and I'm fine," according to a screenshot of the exchange obtained by the New York Post. Santos Aviles' confession to her co-worker was first reported by the San Antonio Express-News, which subsequently withdrew its endorsement of Congressman Gonzalez. Can you imagine that? Why would they? Because Democrats do that, and then that elevates their stature, their status. So she confessed to a coworker, or claimed that she had a tryst, an affair with the congressman, which is inappropriate. And subsequently, the newspaper withdrew their support of Congressman Gonzalez in the March 3rd GOP primary, saying the congressman, quote, has questions to answer. But Gonzalez told the Post in a statement on Wednesday that he was not going to engage in these personal smears and will instead remain focused on helping President Trump secure the border and improve the lives of all Texans. So that is good. I think that's we want to improve the lives of all Texans and all Americans everywhere. But this woman set herself on fire and killed herself. That's not a really good way to kill yourself, I think. If I were to list all of the ways to kill yourself, let's list 10 ways to kill yourself, all right? And you can throw yourself off of a tall bridge or a building. You can get a pistol and put it in your mouth. Or, hey, wait a minute, I know, you can drench yourself in gasoline and set yourself on fire. That'd be a really creative way of killing yourself. Amazing stuff. Just terrible. So she was a 35-year-old mother of one, and she worked as regional director of Gonzalez in Texas, the 23rd Congressional District. But on September 13th of 2025, months ago now, the woman Santos Aviles covered herself in gasoline. How do you cover yourself? You don't really cover yourself. You drench yourself, I think, before lighting herself ablaze in the backyard of her Uvalde, Texas home. Nothing good happens in Uvalde these days. She died of her injuries the following day, hanging in there for a while. 35-year-old wife and mother of one, worked as a regional director for Congressman Gonzalez in Texas 23rd Congressional District, and part of the area West Texas bordering Mexico. So, and here's a picture of it. She's got her I voted sticker on her thumb there. And it's a terrible, horrible story. And here she is, a picture of herself with her husband and her little child. And it's terrible. This is awful. And I noticed it last night. I saw the story last night. And I said to my best girl, and it happened months ago, that really the Democrats have normalized self-immolation in America. They've made self-immolation normal to the point where it's not even news. Oh, yeah, sure, yeah, aide to a congressman set herself on fire, self-immolated, killed herself like a Buddhist monk. And everybody in the news media yawns because what's the big? But the congressman Probably hired a Democrat when he's working across the aisle. A terrible, tragic story, obviously, but hey, Democrats, what's with all the killing? Why don't you guys knock that off? By the way, the young woman that self-immolated in Texas, her mother, she was apparently getting divorced from her husband, the father of their child, and she was very upset. And the mother says that the stories that she had an affair with the congressman, she said, I don't think it has any merit. She said, I think the stories that they had an affair completely false. But then there's the news media. All right, let's go to the telephones. Let's go to Moscow Bob, calling from Moscow, Russia. Moscow Bob, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Hey, good evening. Now, with all these Democrats complaining that it's Trump's fault about the Potomac River and the pipe, it actually should be set back on Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and Barack Obama. They had full control of the Senate and the House of Representatives, including Hakeem Jeffries, and they did nothing, including AOC, and they're such green people, they should have known already. But, that's the problem. And I've given up giving this for Lent because it's impossible that the Democrats have any brains and any logic.
Well, we don't want to set the bar too high, Moscow Bob. We don't have to start setting standards that would require them to be capable or competent or intelligent or truthful or any of those things because they're Democrat politicians, Moscow Bob. I got to tell you, I love the Democrats want to run him for president, the governor of Maryland, because he's black and for no other reason. And they think, and then they still get fewer votes than Joe Biden, though, as Barack Obama did, because the Democrats are racist. Thanks, Moscow Bob.